Please like, comment and subscribe. Once upon a time, in the year 1800, there lived a young woman named Elizabeth. She was a beautiful girl with striking green eyes and a head full of curly red hair. She lived in a small village in England with her parents and her younger brother, Thomas. Elizabeth was a kind-hearted girl who always looked out for others. She loved to read books and often spent her afternoons sitting under a large oak tree in her backyard, reading her latest novel. Her father, who was a farmer, often teased her about her love for books, saying that a woman's place was in the kitchen, not with her nose buried in a book. Despite her father's disapproval, Elizabeth continued to read and dream of a life beyond the small village where she was born. She longed to explore the world and experience all the adventures that she read about in her books. One day, a handsome young man named William came to the village. He was a wealthy merchant from London and was in the area to buy some land for his business. William was immediately drawn to Elizabeth's beauty and intelligence, and he asked her to go for a walk with him in the village. Elizabeth was hesitant at first, knowing that her father would disapprove of her spending time with a man who was not of their village. But William was charming and persuasive, and Elizabeth found herself agreeing to go for a walk with him. As they strolled through the village, William told Elizabeth about his life in London and all the adventures he had experienced. Elizabeth was fascinated by his stories and found herself becoming more and more attracted to him. William invited Elizabeth to come with him to London, promising to show her all the wonders of the city. Elizabeth was torn between her desire to see the world and her loyalty to her family and village. She knew that her father would never allow her to leave, and she didn't want to cause any trouble. But William was persistent, and he kept coming back to the village to see Elizabeth. He brought her gifts and books and told her stories of all the places he had been to. Slowly but surely, Elizabeth began to fall in love with him. One day, William proposed to Elizabeth, and she said yes. They made plans to leave the village together and start a new life in London. Elizabeth's father was furious when he found out, but Elizabeth was determined to follow her heart and be with the man she loved. On the day of their departure, Elizabeth said goodbye to her family and the village where she had spent her entire life. She felt a mixture of excitement and sadness as she left behind everything she had ever known. As they journeyed to London, William showed Elizabeth all the wonders of the city. They visited the theaters and the art galleries, and Elizabeth was amazed by the beauty and grandeur of it all. She had never seen anything like it before, and she was grateful to William for showing her a new world. But as time went on, Elizabeth began to realize that William was not the man she thought he was. He was often moody and irritable, and he had a temper that frightened her. He spent most of his time working and had little time for her. Elizabeth tried to ignore her feelings and make the best of her situation, but she couldn't help but feel trapped in a life that wasn't what she had dreamed of. She missed her family and the simple life she had left behind. One day, Elizabeth received a letter from her mother, telling her that her father had fallen ill and was asking for her to come home. Elizabeth was torn between her duty to her family and her loyalty to William. But she knew that she had to go back and see her father before it was too late. When Elizabeth told William about her father's illness, he became angry and demanded that she stay in London with him. He told her that her place was by his side and that she couldn't leave him alone. Elizabeth tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't listen. She realized then that William didn't truly love her, he only wanted to possess her. Despite his objections, Elizabeth packed her bags and left for her village. She felt guilty for leaving William, but she knew that she couldn't stay in a loveless marriage. When Elizabeth returned home, she found her father in a weakened state. He was happy to see her, and they spent hours talking about her adventures in London. Elizabeth felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life she had led and the experiences she had gained, but she also realized that her heart was in the village. As her father's health improved, Elizabeth started to help out on the farm. She found that she enjoyed working with the animals and the land, and she felt a sense of purpose in her life. One day, while she was out in the fields, she met a young man named John. He was a farmer like her father, and they bonded over their love of nature and the simple life. John was kind and gentle, and Elizabeth found herself drawn to him. Over time, Elizabeth and John fell in love. They spent hours talking about their dreams and aspirations, and they found that they had a lot in common. John understood Elizabeth in a way that William never could, and he supported her in her quest for knowledge and adventure. Eventually, John proposed to Elizabeth, and she accepted. They got married in a small ceremony in the village church, surrounded by their family and friends. Elizabeth felt a deep sense of happiness and contentment as she started a new life with the man she loved. Years passed, and Elizabeth and John had children of their own. They continued to farm the land and live a simple life in the village. Elizabeth never forgot her adventures in London, but she realized that true happiness came from the simple pleasures in life. She taught her children to read and to explore the world around them, and she instilled in them a love of knowledge and adventure. She knew that her life had been full of ups and downs, but she wouldn't have had it any other way. In the end, Elizabeth lived a long and happy life. She never forgot the lessons she had learned in London, but she knew that her heart was in the village, surrounded by the people and the land that she loved. She knew that life was a journey, and that true happiness came from following your heart and your dreams. Thank you for watching.